F1, directed by Joseph Kosinski. Kosinski brings back the sports genre to the big screen, and man, it is epic. If you can, go see this in IMAX, because this film is truly a singular cinematic experience. And take anyone with you, take your family, your friends. This is a good old-fashioned, crowd-pleasing sports film. I'll give a brief summary. Brad Pitt plays an old race car driver. We learn that he retired from F1 after a bad accident, but he is still racing in other leagues. In the beginning, we find him winning the Daytona race. An old friend from his past F1 days, played by Javier Bardem, comes to recruit him to be the second driver in his new F1 team. And the second driver is played by Damson Idris, who is a new racer. He's a rookie, but he has a lot of talent and potential. That's the story. Obviously, these two race car drivers are trying to win the Grand Prix. But for those of you who don't know, in F1, both racers are racing at the same time. So each team has two racers on the track. The main drama is about these two race car drivers from different eras battling it out on the track instead of working together. And this film wastes no time. I think that's a strength of the film, that the film is very fast paced and it does not waste time with subplots or backstories. The film is very focused on racing, and there is a lot of race scenes here. It's not like other films where there's like a first introduction, there's a training scene, there's a middle, and then there's an end. Like, no, there is kind of consistently, there's races throughout this entire film. There is a ton of car action here, and it's incredible. More on that later. But I thought that the film was very smart, or Joseph Kosinski was very smart in casting these two actors. Because the screenplay isn't the most groundbreaking, this isn't Rocky, this isn't Warrior, to combat sports. Most other sport films, it's about the sport. They make the audience care about football, basketball, whatever it may be, hockey. But I feel like they always are very character focused. Someone's dealing with issues. They have some trauma with their dad. Someone's in the hospital. Like, the film usually tries to really make you care about this main protagonist. And that's not a problem. That's great, you know? This film, what it does is it focuses a lot on the league itself. And for those of you who don't know, my fellow film fans, this film is sponsored by the sport F1. The logo of the film, that's the logo of the sport. So this film is very focused on the driving aspect. But I think the film does just enough to where this film doesn't feel soulless and it doesn't feel like a montage of racing. The drama between those two actors, those two drivers, is very interesting. So that's why, to me, the film works. I think the film, it walks that balance very well. It was interesting because it's not like if one racer's good and one racer's bad. Like, one is a good person, one's a douche, or one's really good and one isn't. Like, I like that they're kind of both arrogant, they're both aggressive, they're both cocky, and that just creates for a lot of tension. And it mostly is because of Brad Pitt, which I like. You would think it's Brad Pitt, he's the star of the film. You would think that it'd be more of like he's always in the right and he's teaching this young kid how to race. In many ways, Brad Pitt is the problem, but it's all like tough love and it's all like competitive lessons. But because of what he does to the young driver, it's constantly making problems, it's constantly adding tension. And that's just so compelling, you know? And I think anyone could get behind that because we all understand competition, you know? Obviously, some people are way more competitive, but we all can get behind that concept because it's a very human concept. Especially being aggressive, the warrior mentality of I need to win, I need to conquer. The film just does that so well. It portrays that so well. I think the story, the main story, the plot is I think it's very good and good enough. You know, not every film needs to be the most redefining screenplay, especially in a genre film. I think the film just needs to do justice to the genre and to the sport. And to me, that's what it does. And I had the privilege, and sometimes not privilege, but I had the privilege of seeing this with a lot of F1 fans. My brother and many of my friends are really big fans. So there was a downside to that because sometimes they were going crazy in the theater screaming over things that I'm like, what? And it wasn't because of the film itself. It was because of cameos from racers, people in the league. And I don't know if you know that, my film fans, but real racers and real people from the sport are scattered throughout the film. You just see them on the track. You see them walking. You see them doing interviews. So that was cool. And I think I benefited from this because I knew just enough to understand certain things, but without being like, oh, that's unrealistic because I know so much about F1. I knew just enough to where the commentators, I think the first race is my favorite because there's no score. and it's just commentary, and it feels like a real race. I've heard my friends watch these races a bunch of times, and the film uses the real commentators. It just feels like a new level of immersion because it's filmed in such a different way. Of course, it's not cameras from super far or from very low resolution cameras that are mounted on the car. It's filmed with IMAX cameras. It's filmed like much like Top Gun Maverick, but with the competitive and the formatting of a real race. So it just added a whole new level of immersion, and that was awesome. And yeah, that brings me to the technical aspect of the film. Yeah, I mean, this kind of goes without saying, but how could you not mention it, you know? But visually, this film is out of this world. It's like, I mean, it's the same team of Top Gun Maverick. So immersive, just mind-blowing to be in that position. And I think the film does a good job of showing you just how tight the drivers are. They're like in such a small, tight spot while they're racing. I think that the film does a good job of portraying how fast these cars can go, not just in a straight line, how they can go during turns. And also how fragile the cars are, because they are pretty fragile. That's why they're so fast, because they're so light. Obviously, this is just my opinion, but I think in many ways, this film is more immersive than Top Gun Maverick, because as much as Top Gun Maverick is filmed in the most immersive way possible, most of us can't fathom what it's like to fly a jet thousands of feet in the air. You know, like, it looks awesome. It looks very realistic. That's such an abstract, foreign experience. But we all know what it's like to drive a car, at least most of us. So I feel like in a way this film feels even more immersive, even more intense because of that. We know what it's like to drive a car. Us, the audience, are put in the place of the driver many times during the race scenes, and we're seeing how low they are. We're seeing how fast they're going, how close they are to other cars. It just adds a whole new level of adrenaline and immersion. I don't know what else I could say. You just need to experience it because it's truly that amazing. It's truly, like I said in the beginning, it's a singular cinematic experience. Hans Zimmer did the score, and surprisingly, they don't really use his score much, but I understand. A film like this, you need to hear. And honestly, I think it was a smart choice to not be like, you know what, let's keep this film extremely cinematic and like ignore the commentary, because the drivers are constantly talking through radio to their team, to engineers, to mechanics, to team leaders and whatnot. So the film has some scenes with just score, but for the most part, that score is absent or the score is very low. So there was only a few times where I was like, oh, this is a great song. This is a great score. But it wasn't that much, and I'm so used to hearing Hans and being like, so I can't even say that was a complaint. That was just an aspect of the film, you know? I do appreciate the team aspect. Like I said, they don't waste time with subplots and all that. So they don't ignore these people, but in the film, they just give them just enough to where these feel like real people. They're just not NPCs and the side going doo 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 doo, like changing the car tires or whatever, you know? Like, all these characters have their little moments, and I just think that was cool. It just adds to the immersion. It just makes this team feel real, and I just really appreciate that. So I don't want to ramble too much more. I just think you really should see this. It does not matter that you're not an F1 fan. Like I said, I went with a lot of F1 fans, but I also went with a couple people who don't know anything just like me. They're F1 normies and they're film normies, so and they also very much enjoyed the film. This film's for everyone, so I really do think you guys gotta check this out and report back. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching.